Happy. Now, what would we like to do next, Jerry? What shall we do?
Well, I think it would be good to ask Adisha to talk to us about art, creativity, and his music and designs. How about that?
Excellent.
I'd be more than happy to.
All right, Adisha, over to you. We're looking forward hearing from you.
Okay. Oh, thank you, Donna. You have shared the slide deck. That's great. So, Donna, if you could just go through the just the first few transitions, and then we can see the title of the slide. That'd be wonderful. Excellent. So my talk today is on a subject that's very close to my heart. I'm really a scientist and a teacher during the day. That's my profession. I lecture in a university called BPP. I'm wearing they're topping their logo here, flying the flag for them at the moment. But when I'm not lecturing, I like to be creative. And what does creative mean? Well, it means sort of creating new things out of nothing, basically, or at the bare minimum of resources. And this talk is about a real passion of, well, one of my passions is drawing, and also how I connected that with another passion of mine, which is music. Okay, so if we can sort of, and you can see on this sort of title slide some examples of paintings that I've done, and each painting that I do has a story behind it. You'll be interested to know, and I'll try and relate those stories to you as we go through the slides. So, Donna, if we can go to the first slide. So I'm just going to go through a few definitions. You know, it's nice to know the meanings behind some of these words. So what does art mean? So I found a very nice, succinct definition of it. Art is the expression or application of human creative skill and imagination. So I've highlighted the words that mean the most to me out of this definition. Typically in a visual form, such as a painting or a sculpture, and producing works to be appreciated primarily for their beauty or emotional power. Okay, so that's quite a far-reaching definition. So there are various branches of art, such as painting and music. So it's not just about drawing. There's literature and dance, but I'm not going to do a dance for you, don't worry. I'm just going to talk about the sort of painting and music aspect. So let's now have a look at the next slide. That's it. And this tells you a bit about creativity. It's quite a far-reaching term, and it's use of the imagination or original ideas to create something, or to invent something. And these two things combined, on a personal level, take me to give me a state of happiness. It gives me much happiness, and it takes me away from all the mundane things that are going on in this world. You know, takes me away from all the things that are going on in social media. So it gives me a bit of space to sort of collect my thoughts as well and focus, just like meditation does. So let's go on to the next slide, please. So art and music have played a huge role in my life so far. And as of saying, it's made me happy. So it's something that I've been doing from a very, very young age. Here are a few pictures here. And I ever since I was little, just basically from the age of 3 and 4 upwards, I've loved to sort of draw things. I was a very sort of quiet child. I didn't like to write things down, and I wasn't very talkative. So I like to sort of just explore just with a few pens and pencils, and I was blessed enough to have a little violin as well when I was younger as well. My father loved music, and he was very sort of encouraging to me. He wanted me to learn a little bit more about music and all the things that he couldn't do basically when he was a child. So that was lovely. So I grew up doing things I really enjoyed, and I think it's very important to allow children to have this space to play as well with sound and art and drawing. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide. So here are a few more pictures. I'm slightly older now here in this picture. So I'm playing my violin, and that little fellow next to me is my son.
Oh,
So
wow.
yeah, so that's in my it's in my DNA now. So I've passed on that sort of habit of music to my son.
What are you
And
playing?
actually,
What sort of music are you playing?
well, it was some Sri Lankan music. We were asked to play some Sri Lankan music, some traditional music on stage for a charity event. In the bottom left-hand corner, I was playing some music on a more sort of serious level. we were playing to some where was this? This was in Watford Coliseum. So there's a huge crowd there that were watching us create some classical music. So that was on a more sort of
With a sitar, Indian music.
there's a sitar there. There was a tabla, all sort of traditional instruments there. And on the right hand side, they're my adorable nieces, Maya and Sophia. So they love tinkering about on the piano as well. And that's the thing about music. You should just enjoy yourself. You know, you don't have to do it professionally to enjoy the joy that sound brings to you, and even art as well. So I always believe that all of us within us, there's an innate artist just waiting to burst out. You just have to give it time and uncover that and uncover that skill. And it takes time, it takes patience, it takes practice. And you should never be too judgmental about what you do as well. That's one thing that art and music tells you to do. Just be kind to yourself and, you know, appreciate what you're doing as well. And by doing that, you become better. And you know, many artists thrive on other people's praise, but you shouldn't go down that route. You should be able to sort of praise your own work and see the good in the things that you do as well. So let's have a look at the next slide. So here's another definition here. How can art, music, and technology be combined? So I was very curious. As a scientist, I like to sort of play around and experiment. How can we combine these things to influence our happiness and well-being? Not only our own happiness and well-being, but perhaps the happiness of others around you. Because that's a great power. It's almost like a superpower that you can develop. You know, you can make other people happy, even when you're not there. When they look at your art, when they listen to your music, you can lift people into another state of happiness. And I think that's a wonderful thing to be able to do. So let's have a look at the next slide. So what I'm going to do now, I'll show you a few drawings that I've done that are based on, you know, key life events for me, that every time I look at them, it gives me such joy and happiness. Okay, so this is the day that I got married to my wife. Mm-hmm. So this is a pencil drawing, and I try and, you know, you'll see that I try and focus on the expressions of the faces. Very good. Just to show the sort of emotion behind the sort of event, you know. So it's not what I would call a hyper realistic drawing, but it's there to capture the essence of the moment. Okay. Let's have a look at the next slide. And there's the center of my solar system, my young son. That was when he was about 4 or 5. So I tried to capture a moment that, you know, where he was sort of, I think he was looking out of a train window at the time, and he was absolutely stunned by the scenery. It's the first time he'd been on a train. So I tried to capture that moment of pure joy in something that he'd never seen before. Okay.
Yeah, that's very good. You're very talented.
Thank you. Let's have a look at the next slide as well. So this is a little bit more of what we call a seascape or landscape. So I've tried to put in some pastoral colors, and the story behind this is I just love water. I love to depict water more than anything. I find it so calming, and the properties of water is, you know, that it can fit any surface. It can reflect light, and I always think of light as happiness as well, and darkness as sort of ignorance. So when light falls on an area, you're sort of spreading that joy as well. So this is more than just a landscape or seascape. It's like a point in time, the dawn of something good about to happen. That's what it's representing. Okay, let's have a look at the next picture. So this is a very interesting scene. Okay, this is Taprobane Island in Sri Lanka, where I was born. And the story behind this is a very interesting one. You may recall the terrible tsunami that occurred in the sort of southeast part of the world, and so many people lost their lives, property was destroyed. But when I saw this island, I suddenly realized this was one of the few things that withstood the tsunami.
Really?
It arose above that sort of horrible situation and was untouched. So this to me symbolizes sort of resilience in the face of adversity. Okay, and it got me thinking, this is a static picture. How can I give some life to this picture? And as I was sort of going through social media, I came across these apps, these adverts for apps that, that allow you to give life to photos and things. And I thought, well, what if I can do that to perhaps one or more of my paintings? So if you just click once, Doneth.
Oh, wow.
We've managed to animate it.
Yeah.
So using the app, I was able to put in quite like a realistic animation on the sky and some gentle waves coming through. And the lovely thing about this, it loops, so you could just look at it for as long as you want.
That's amazing, Adisha. Right, good job on just putting the technique on top.
That's right. I was just, it was kind of inspired by the Harry Potter films. I don't know if you've seen them. You see the paintings, in Hogwarts or whatever. And as he walks past, they come to life. And I thought, wow, if I could only do that. And now technology enables you to do something like that. Yeah. So let's have a look at the next slide. So here's a painting called Moon River, based on the song, a very popular song. The music was by Henry Mancini, and it was sung by Audrey Hepburn. I think it was from the film, yes, Breakfast at Tiffany's. So I always think about the words of Moon River, and it sort of took me to a place that I imagine would look like something like this. Okay, I'll just read, I won't sing the song, but I'll just read the words from the Moon River, wider than a mile. I'm crossing you in style someday. Old dream maker, you heartbreaker, wherever you're going, I'm going your way. Two drifters off to see the world. There's such a lot of world to see. We're after the same rainbow's end, waiting round the bend, my huckleberry friend, Moon River and me. So words like that, and even the music is beautiful. If you get the chance to listen to the song, it's just stunning. And for me, it took me to a place like this. And I love, Mark Twain's books, but, Huckleberry Finn and what have you as well. So I was inspired by that too. If you now click once, Donna, you see my interpretation of it being animated.
Wow.
So I've managed to get some movement in the clouds, and that's it. And some movement in the water as well, and a reflection from the moon. I've always been sort of inspired by the way that moonlight reflects off water as well. Okay, let's have a look at the next slide, Donna. That's it. Yeah, you can see the reflections there now. So this is a very interesting painting. It's quite a complicated painting, this one. Lots of detail in it. It's about sort of A2 size, which is sort of double of A3. And this is a procession that takes place in Sri Lanka called the Candi Perahara. And there are some beautifully decorated elephants and some dancers. And you can see the fire. I've given some life to the fire. There's some smoke coming out there. And the clouds against the full moon. So full moon in Sri Lanka signifies, a very special event, very auspicious time of the month in Sri Lanka. And on the back of the elephant are the relics of the Buddha, Lord Buddha. So it's a very sort of spiritual procession as well. Interestingly, I gave this as a gift to my father when he was 50 years old. and I'm 50 now. So it's really strange to see this now. So I gave this as a gift to my father at an age that I am now. So it has a very sort of special significance as well. And my late grandparents are actually in the crowd there. I've sort of put them in the crowd. And I'm in there as well as a small child. So I like to put some personal elements in my paintings as well, just to sort of customize them.
What did you paint? What material did you use? Is it?
Yeah, I used to love painting in oils, but I have no patience. I prefer acrylic. It dries a lot quicker and it sort of sets that much quicker. And with oils, you have to wait a long time to see the end results. I like to see sort of more instant results. So my medium of preference is acrylic.
Did you have any formal training?
Not really. I'm really self-taught. I mean, I did do O-level, but I kind of did my own thing. I never listened to the teachers. I just did my own thing and started, you know, creating my own coursework and artwork, and they just let me get on with it. So it's something, because I've been doing it so long, I take to it quite naturally. I don't really have to sort of work at it, as it were. I just let it happen, you know.
Well, everyone is loving your pictures, Adisha, and the comments are overflowing with compliments.
Oh, thank you so much.
Have you got one more? Are we interrupting?
Oh, yes, we've got a few more. Yeah. I've got a nice surprise at the end as well. So
all right, let's see them.
So I just wanted to sort of show some of the work that has influenced me. And this is from my father. My father's a doctor, and he loves to sort of sculpture, or did when I was younger, and we still have those sculptures, and they've always inspired me. And it just occurred to me that, you know, those figures in the Perahara picture that the procession that I showed you earlier were probably inspired by his sculptures on this screen here. So you've got the drummer, and also you see here there's two fishermen here. And these are like made out of clay, and we didn't have a kiln or anything, so he let it sort of naturally dry and then painted them afterwards. So he's a sort of very, very creative person as well, and it is, I'd like to think I've inherited those genes as well.
You have.
So let's have a look at the next. There we go. So this one was really inspired by one of his sculptures. I've animated the two fishermen in the boat. This is a drawing, just a pencil drawing of two fishermen just going through some basically like some marshland and what have you.
You know, looking at this painting, that's exactly how I imagined the scene in Where the Crawdads Sing. I've never seen the film, but I've always had this in my mind, and I could not convey it to anybody. It's amazingly atmospheric.
And there is, and I tried to put, I don't know if you can play the animation again. It's a very short animation, but I've tried to put some rain in there as well.
Yes, I wonder what that was. Yeah, it's rain.
And I made the frame change a little bit to give it a bit more life.
Yeah.
Hopefully it doesn't make you seasick or anything. But it just subtly move from side to side as well.
Very cool.
Let's have a look at the next one. And I gave it a sepia tone to give it like that classical feel. Now, this is a combination of sculpture and painting. So I got my father to make this embossed sculpture of what we call a pagoda in Sri Lanka. And then I painted it. I gave it some sort of real life sort of colors. So I painted that sort of flower tree and the pillars. These are ancient structures. So that this I donated to a temple in Croydon, Selsdon. It's called Thames Buddhist Vihara, Thames Meditation Society. That's still there. So there's a photo of me there in front of it. So yeah, I like to give my paintings away every now and then. It gives me a lot of pleasure to sort of allow other people to experience what I experience, you know, as I was painting it. And if you go to the next slide, this is the biggest painting I've done ever. It's huge. It takes up a whole wall. It's a mural in Thames Buddhist Vihara, and it's the scene when the Buddha became enlightened, and at the crack of dawn. So there's a Bodhi tree where he was meditating under. And this has been a real family effort. My father sculpted the tree and the branches, so it's actually coming out of the wall. and my mother made those leaves. There's something like 200 odd leaves out of ironing fabric and dyed them and what have you. And then I sort of painted the bark on the tree and the scene surrounding it. And to this, it's there to this day. If ever you're in the area and you pop into the temple, you'll be able to see that. So this was created back in 1994 over a period of about 3 or 4 days.
Amazing, Adisha.
So yeah, a lot of effort went into that, but it's something that gives me a lot of peace and joy as well. And it's a place to meditate as well. Okay, if we go into the next scene. The next slide is basically zooming in on one element of it, and it's animated, and you can see the clouds moving across the sky, and there are some deers there, and there's what we call Aurelia tree or temple tree in the front with some clusters of white flowers. Very sort of peaceful morning scene there, with some mist sort of going across. Yeah, so that I've used the technology to try and bring it to life.
It's astonishing, Adisha. We are flipping through your artwork of over the years, and I feel like we could spend like 15 minutes on each picture, and they're so beautiful, every one of those. And I'm looking at them and I'm thinking, wow, it's astonishing. You are such a talented artist, and we're getting to see your creativity here. Wow.
We've got a few more slides. If we can just go to the next one. So this is another scene. It kind of makes me feel cold, but there's a story behind this. I put some snow in it as well. It's kind of Christmassy, isn't it? We've got some moving clouds, but that cloud structure, it's something I saw as I was driving home from work, and I thought, I'd love to be able to capture that. And it's something that I remembered. It's a very unusual shape with the sun just sort of bursting through. So I thought I just captured it. The moment I got home, I sort of painted it. It took like between half an hour or an hour to do it, and then I was so intensely painting it, and I thought, it was such a sense of relief after I've done it, because I thought I would lose it. It's one of those things. It's like trying to capture a butterfly or something. I don't know, not a good analogy, but you get the idea.
And Luna just said, "Dang, love that." Very nice.
If we can go to the next slide. Okay.
How many more have you got, Adisha? You're painting so many.
This is one of the last ones, and there's a very interesting story behind this. There's a lot of meaning behind this picture. It was created basically when I found out that I was going to be a father. So I had this dream about a forest, and in the forest was a stag, and each of these elements here actually have got significance. There's a lot of symbolism. So there's lotus flowers, streams, and a waterfall, and a solitary stag. So throughout history, the stag has been known as the king of the forest and the protector of all other creatures. It's a messenger and an animal of power, and represents sort of sensitivity, intuition, and gentleness. Okay, and stags and deers have featured quite prominently in Buddhist folklore. In the front of the picture is like a lotus pond, and that represents life. Okay, the lotus is a symbol of purity, enlightenment, regeneration, and rebirth as well. And the waterfall in the background is an emblem of continuous motion. It's a symbol of abundance and prosperity and good fortune as well. So these sort of elements came together in a dream I had. And this is probably taking me the longest to paint, because on and off I was painting it. So, I mean, my son's 17 now, and I finished this, when was it, 2000? So it took me about 5 or 6 years to actually complete on and off. But
Wow.
it's, as you can see, it's quite full of detail. And I have a little surprise for you. If you go on to the next slide, Donna, this is an animated version of it.
Oh, wow.
I've put some moving elements in there. So you can see the waterfall is moving, and also the stream in the front. The water is actually splashing around. Yeah. And there's a deer in there as well. I've added another deer, female deer, to sort of balance it out. And that one's alive. That one's a beautifully animated deer. That just seemed to fit into it. So it's almost like very serendipitous, the way I found these sort of elements and put them together. I had no idea these things were out there, and it just seemed to fit in to the picture. So so that's sort of taken my original art to a completely new level, I think. And then I thought, what would happen if I could add music to this? So, and then I was sort of, I thought of a tune, that an original composition that would go with this, called Woodland. And on the next slide, hopefully Donna can play that, and we get the sound as well. Is that going to play, Donna? That's it. And that really does bring me to the end of the presentation. Thank you all so much.
Well, that's amazing.
Hope you enjoyed that.
Absolutely brilliant. Oh, well done, Adisha. I was very inspired. I think you've got a great deal of talent in so many areas. So painting, drawing, visualizing, music, taking photographs. So you've got some lovely ideas. I can ask if there are any questions. I'm sure I've got lots of questions, but I don't want to hog this. Anybody got any comments?
Adisha, would you play for us maybe at a future meeting?
Of course, I'd love to.
Oh, that would be good.
I'd love to.
Well, I think we must put a little project together, because I know Sabine, for example, works in an art gallery in Bournemouth called Russell Coates, and she's helping me with a story about creativity for the NHS here in Dorset. But I see lots of ideas, Adisha. I definitely think you and I must have a longer conversation. One of my little projects is to create a world-class sculpture park to celebrate the life of Queen Elizabeth II. Wow. I have started to invite countries around the world, particularly Commonwealth countries, to submit some ideas for a sculpture. So perhaps through you, we can identify some Sri Lankan sculptors who might be able to create some works of art. And the same would apply to other countries around the world. But that's just an idea for the future. Right. Well, look, we're running a little low on time. I'm just going to suggest, Julia, we might put the breakout sessions back to next month. What do you think?
We can absolutely do that. Of course, it's an extra given topic.
Yes.
I might not be able to attend next one, but we can skip it for today. And what I would love to instead, just before we continue with the book and the calendar, just to give us a brief, like a 1 minute from what we can take from Adisha and connect it with the gratitude which we were to talk about. And then we have it all combined and shortened together. And then we can move on to the next topic, because what I would love to share just the thoughts which went through my mind. And I would like you to consider those as a reflection of what you were taking away from Adisha's talk. Now, if I tell you my thoughts, I would love you to think about what that means to you, so that they are your inspirations and your takeaways. Okay, does this make sense? So I'm inviting you in to think about, just notice how Adisha was explaining and presenting his joy. Just take a look and feel the joy Adisha was giving us with his creativity, with his art, with his music, and feel that as an inspiration of what you can take away for your own life. Because I believe it's always so important that we take something which has all these good vibes and bring that into our own, so that we can take things from Adisha's joy and take this precious gift he has given us and bring it into our own life, to enrich our soul and to bring it in. You know, it's like letting it in, let the goodness come into you. So when we hear Adisha and see his art, it's so beautiful, magical scenes of his life. Take it in and let your soul be filled with whatever is happening in your life, the beauty which has happened, and be grateful for that. Be grateful what you have in your life already. That is the basis of gratitude. Now, when we see what Adisha is showing us, feel what you have already and be grateful for what you have. And to top the gratitude, because I know you're all professionals already at your gratitude, make it another statement of actually bringing something into your life which you don't yet have. So that when we are grateful for what we have already, that's top. If we want to enhance that, we can be grateful to bring something into our life and state it in the present tense. Now, just imagine you were inspired by Adisha's creativity and you would allow yourself to non-judgmentally sit down and paint. You could be grateful already for your creativity. You can tell yourself, I'm grateful for the painting I'm painting. I'm grateful for the creativity I have. And that way you bring something into your life which you maybe not already have, but which is already part of your life because you bring it in. So this is an advanced level of gratitude. And I would love you to play around with that in another time. This is all I wanted to say today about that. So can you give me a sign that you understood what I'm talking about? Yes, good.